some people, and I'm just being real with you, they have that potential in them, but they will never realize it because they will fall, to the other things and distractions in this world. So constantly push yourself, constantly apply yourself. You can do whatever you want with your life. It just depends on you and your mindset. Hi guys, I'm Dr. Soraya Oruya. So I'm a pediatrician, but I went to Brookhouse just like you guys. I graduated in 2013, and then now I'm a pediatric resident physician. So I'm in my third year, but in 2 months, I'm going to be done with residency, and I'm moving on to be a general pediatric attending physician in Atlanta. So before I tell you how I ended up here, do you guys know what a resident means, an attending? Just so that I make sure that I'm not using terms that you're not familiar with as yet. Little bit. Do you watch Grey's Anatomy? Or yeah. So if you watch those doctor shows, you probably already have an idea of what a resident is. But just to keep it brief, so when you finish medical school, you become a resident because you have to still do training. So essentially, you're a physician, but somebody needs to guide you to be able to take care of human beings, because you know the book stuff, but you don't know how to actually take care of a human being as yet. So you need that guidance. And depending on what you're doing, it's a different length in time, how long your training is gonna be. So for me, I'm a pediatrician, so my training was 3 years. So that's what you do in residency, it's training. And things like surgery, surgical specialties like urology, all those things, they're a little bit longer. So maybe 4 years, 5 years, 6, 7. It really depends on what kind of a physician you want to be. So that's residency. So then you can be a fellow, and a fellow is a specialist. So if I wanted to be a specialist at, say, pediatric cardiology, I have to do a fellowship, because once you do residency, you're just a general physician in that specialty, but you can go deeper. And usually fellowship means that now you're doing research, you're learning all the intricate details about that particular system. So fellowship also, it depends. Some are 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. It really depends what kind of fellowship you're doing. And that's now a fellow. So you're not yet an attending, you're training in a subspecialty. After that, you become an attending physician. Attending physicians are done with their training. They go on to make decisions on their own. And basically from then on, you're not in training anymore. You're practicing fully as an independent physician. So that's just a guide of, what the different things mean. So for my story, I went to Brookhouse, just like you guys. I went here from year 7 to year 13. But for me, I knew that I wanted to be a physician when I was 9. It was literally a call that I got from God, and I heard it at 9 years old. I'll never forget. So that's something that I always felt called to. But we all know, going into medicine, it's a lot of work, it's difficult, the fail rate is high. We all hear the crazy statistics, and sometimes that makes you fear going into something. But for me, I kind of played around with it because I was like, okay, I want to do medicine, but I also was swimming at the time. I swam for the national team from when I was 9 until 18. So I was still thinking Olympics, all these things. I wasn't ready to give up my athletic background. So when I got to year 12, year 13, I don't know, some of you are probably taught by Mr. Mulindi, right? No, not any. Oh, so he was my biology teacher, and he saw it in me, and he was like, you should go to medical school. Now, SGU has a great relationship with Brookhouse, and we've had students go there from years prior. So he already started putting it in my head in year 13. Think about SGU. It's a good option if you really want to be a physician. But like I said, I was afraid of medicine because I wasn't so sure if I had what it took to become a doctor. And then I still was in love with swimming at the time, so I wasn't ready as yet. I wanted to go to school in the US so that I could still swim. So I settled on going to school in California. I went to California State University, Long Beach. I swam for their team there. But I already knew, my first year there, undergrad and A-levels, you guys don't understand how much you know. Because I got there and I saw that our education level was higher than the American system. So I already felt like, okay, I might be wasting time being here and just doing all these other subjects, trying to figure out what I want when I already know what I want to do. Because if you think about it, the American system, they're not pushed to start thinking about their future until they get to college. Whereas you guys, you're constantly being told, what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? You're always analyzing yourself, like, what do I really want? You've gone to career fairs, they bring people like me. I sat in classes just like this and listened to people talk about what they do with their life. So you have that upper edge because you are already starting to think about what's next for your future. Whereas a lot of people in the States, they kind of just do what they're told and then move on into undergrad. So that's not a bad thing, but I'm just saying that gives you guys an upper edge. And if you use that to your advantage, it'll take you far. So for me, that's when I decided after my first year, my freshman year in college, I said, let me make that switch to go to SGU. So when I came back for summer break, I spoke to Mr. Mulindi. I told him what I was thinking. He gave me all the resources that I needed to apply to SGU. I applied to SGU when I went back for my sophomore year. So I just did one semester, got into SGU, left at the end of that semester. So it was a very quick transition, but everything aligned so perfectly, and I think it's because this is what I was really supposed to do in my life. So I ended up in SGU. I did 3 years on the island, so 1 year of pre-med, and then it's like an accelerated program because if you do well in A-levels, you don't have to do 3 years of pre-med, you don't have to do 4 years of undergrad, you just do that 1 year, and if you pass, you do well, it's a rigorous year, but if you do well, you go into medical school, and then you just join the same path as all these other Americans. So what I found, I'm sitting in class as a 20-year-old with people who are 35, 40, people who've worked, people who've been lawyers, nurses, emergency medicine physicians, and you're sitting there as a 20-year-old with these same people. And then if you happen to do well enough, you get into medical school, you finish, you go into residency, you start practicing 24, 25. These are things that are almost unheard of for a lot of Americans because they have to go through the long route. Some of them have to do the MCAT more than once, apply to med school there, which also comes with its own challenges. But the reason I'm mentioning timelines is not to put pressure on you, but it's really to tell you that age is never going to limit what you can do with your life. If you're focused, if you're serious, if this is what you want to do, you can really just push through and be right there with people who you thought maybe you wouldn't be in the same room, So that's essentially what happened. I got into residency in Philadelphia. So I'm at Albert Einstein Medical Center and we're with Jefferson University. And like I said, I'm graduating from residency in 2 months and I got a waiver job in Atlanta. So as Kenyans, you also have to think, if I want to go work in the US, I'm going to get a J1 visa, a work visa. And after you finish, what this healthcare facility says here is that you'll finish training there, come back here, work for at least 2 years before you continue on in the US. But if you want to continue on in the US and you don't want to have to come back, you can apply for a waiver. So waiver jobs are basically just physician jobs in underserved communities. So these ones really, they need physicians. Mostly you end up in a small town, mid-sized city, but a lot of them tend to be in smaller rural towns in the US. But like I said, when something is for you, it's for you. I'm going to Atlanta, I'm going to a major city. So the chances of that are very slim, but there's nothing different from you and me. I was a student just like you, but like all my dreams are just aligning perfectly. And right now I'm 28, I'm gonna be done with residency. So like I said, if you really want this, things will align for you. You just have to be very focused. But before I continue, are you all interested in medicine or just different things in healthcare? It's okay if you don't know. I thought I wanted to be a plastic surgeon when I was in year 13, and then I wanted to do OB, and then I landed in peds and I fell in love with it. So even if you don't know, that's fine. And even if you're thinking of something now, just know you need to keep an open mind because you don't know what it really is yet, But keep an open mind. You're going to do more training. You'll get to meet other physicians. You'll get to see what their lifestyle looks like, analyze what works for you, and then you'll see what you fall in love with. Hopefully, you'll be called to that specific specialty and you will know. After you finish medical school, so basically in your 4th year, you're applying for residency. So in the US, you have to apply for certain positions. And if you're on a J1 visa like you will all be, you have to look for hospitals that will sponsor your J1 visa. So whereas Americans will have a wider net that they can cast, your net wouldn't be so wide. And you have to look at all options. That would be my advice to you, because it's harder to match as a Kenyan who is also an international medical graduate if you choose to go to a school like SGU or a school basically outside of the US. So with Match, you apply through a database, you get interviews, and then based on those interviews, you rank what places you want to go to. So say you have 10 interviews, you're going to rank what's my number 1, 2, 3. And while you're doing that, everyone that program has interviewed, they're ranking them. So they're ranking all their applicants. And then a system is going to match you based on what the algorithm says. It's very difficult to explain it, but you just have to wait. Usually match day is in the middle of March. It's one day where all the people that applied will get an email that tells you what is gonna happen with your future. It happens once a year. So every year you're having and I wanna give you accurate numbers, so I don't wanna lie to you, but give me 1 second, because the match can be pretty competitive because you have thousands of people who are applying at the same time, okay? So just give me 1 second. All right, so there's about 40,000 first-year residency spots. So that's for intern year. There's 40,000 spots and around 48,000 people are applying. That's taking into account people who are applying for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th time, taking into account all the Americans. This is everyone, including international medical graduates. Only 93% of the spots get filled. So then after that, you can apply to positions that are open if you want to. But the IMG match rate, 60% of IMGs match every year. So that means 40% are gonna go unmatched, which means they have to wait another year. So given those statistics, it's very, very, very nerve-wracking. SGU has really, really good match rates because they prepare us very well to be competitive. And like she said, we have very good stats. We provide, I think, the #1 leading providers of first-year residency positions in the US. So SGU is a great school to go to, rigorous schedule, but if you make it through, the chances that you will match and you will get into a good program are very, very high. But the other thing I want to touch on is obviously the race issue. So there's 1 million physicians in the US that are practicing. 5% of them are Black, 2% of them are Black women. So not only are you going to have to compete against the fact that you're not an American, you also have to think of the other fact that you're also Black, you're also from Kenya. So these are just things I want to put into your mind now, because the things that you do now, the things you do here will affect your future. So if you apply yourself now, you work hard now, that's all going to make you more competitive for the future and increase your chances if you're thinking of going into medical school in the US or Europe or, just in the Western world, essentially. I just want to touch on some things you're going to have to think about as far as challenges, because you've all decided you want to be doctors. So the first thing is going to be, the imposter syndrome that you feel going into such a challenging field. You just have to deal with that by making sure you have a strong reason why you're there. Have a solid why. You cannot be going into this because you want money or you want status, because those are not the things that are going to keep you there. You really have to be there because this is what you feel called to do and have a strong sense of purpose. So don't let anybody tell you that, this, you can't do this, because you're going to hear that. You're going to hear that it's easy to fail. This is a hard path to go through. But if you want it, if you want to, achieve this, it is definitely possible. Don't focus on the statistics and let that affect you in a negative way. Instead, let that be the thing that motivates you. Because like I said, I'm sitting here with you and I was a student just like you. And it's very possible. It's tough, but it's very possible. You may have moments where you feel depressed, where you feel like, I don't know why I chose to do this, because it's going to challenge you. It's going to push you, but you have to stay strong and firm in what you want to do. You want to be a physician, you want to save lives. It's hard for a reason, because when we make mistakes, patients die. And so you have to go into it knowing that I am doing this because I want to impact lives in a positive way. As a pediatrician, you'll be taking care of young children who are looking at you like, this is probably something that I want to do with my life. And if you choose to go to the US, they don't see a lot of Black physicians. So not only are you taking care of them medically, you're also a role model for them. And even for their parents, because a lot of them, back in the day, there was much fewer Black physicians. So they're looking at you like, wow, this is something that is possible. And you have that advantage that you've grown up in Kenya, you've grown up seeing Black excellence, you go to Brookhouse. Like, this is not something to take lightly. The things that you learn here, the things they instill in you, these are things that can make you very, very good in the future in terms of being successful, going for your goals. But you have to look at it like, I want to use everything that is put in front of me to better myself and to be the best that I can be. So don't get complacent. Don't stick to things because, you want to stay in that comfortable net. You may be thinking, maybe let me practice in Kenya because I'm close to home, or I have friends here, but you always want to think outside the box, reach for the stars. If you limit yourself, you will only go so far. But there's so much more that you can achieve out there in the world. And even if you want to stay here, just constantly keep pushing yourself. And the other thing I want to touch on is, I know that right now it seems like, having friends, having fun is what is important to you. I get it. I was your age as well. You may think you know a lot about the world, but when you go into the world, you'll realize that it's not this safe bubble that you've always been in. The people you have around you are so important because they will determine the trajectory of your life. These people sitting here, I know you may love each other and be friends with each other, but you're all gonna go on to do different things. So don't limit yourself in terms of like, who's my friend right now? What's my friend doing? Make sure you surround yourself with people who are winning in life, people who are reaching for more. Seek out people older than you to mentor you because they can give you those little tools, those little gems that will help cut down your course. You don't want to make the same mistakes they made. You can learn from their experiences. So definitely look for mentors, people who can guide you. And if you realize that you don't want to do medicine, you want to switch and do something else, that is completely fine. Just always be honest with yourself. What do I want out of life? But you have to start making those decisions now. It's not something that when you're 25, now let me start thinking what I want to do with my life. You really have to be analyzing that from right now, building good habits, making sure you're doing well, making sure you're pushing yourself, even in the small everyday things. If you play sports, you are going as hard as you can. You're constantly competing with yourself to be absolutely amazing, because that is what's gonna set you apart. You have to always have that level of drive in every single thing that you do, because that's then what sets you apart from everyone else. And when you have one opportunity, one chance to do something amazing with your life, those skills that you build now will allow you to go right through. So don't ever falter. I mean, it's okay sometimes, but always pick yourself up. Always keep pushing yourself, encouraging yourself, support yourself. Some of the people who are close to you will not always be there for you, and some of them cannot go on that path with you. For example, with me being in the US, I had to leave a lot of friends behind here. My parents are here. I had to walk this path on my own, and I'm still walking this path on my own. So as much as they're supporting me and they love me and they're praying for me, I'm also out there on my own. When things happen, I'm by myself. But that's not something you should look at as a weakness, because you learn to be independent, you learn to be strong. And as a physician, that's very important, because if you have a child crashing in front of you, something serious is happening, it's that survival instinct that is going to save that life. So always push yourself. That's my main thing to you guys. Keep dreaming. Don't let people tell you that you can't do something. You have to always believe in yourself, and don't look at yourself like, I cannot do anything. You can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want to be. Even if you choose to go into music, if you choose to do something that's completely different, just give it your absolute best. Yes, so you do the 2 years of basic sciences on the island, and in addition to your pre-med years. And then they give you the option of doing clinicals either in the UK or in the US, right? So for me, I did my 3rd and 4th year at Brooklyn Hospital. So that's where I did my training, and it was good because I was able to meet other attending physicians, meet other people to mentor me. That's where I got my letters of reference. And then also, if you build good relationships and they like how you carry yourself as a student, they might just tell you straight up, we want you, which is essentially what happened to me. So they already start vetting you as a student. But I didn't end up there because I had other opportunities. And then obviously how God works, our plans are not always his plans. And I ended up at a great program. Brooklyn Hospital was still great, but I believe that where I am now is the best place that I could have done my training. They do. So they give you like a questionnaire, I think in your 2nd year, because you would be matching to a clinical hospital between 2nd and 3rd year. So they give you a questionnaire that asks you like, where do you want to go? Why do you want to go there? Are there people that you want to be with? It doesn't always end up how you want, but honestly, there's a way God just knows what's for you. Because I wanted to be with my 2 other friends who were also thinking New Jersey, and I was thinking, let me go to New Jersey. It's cheaper, it would be better for me. They ended up getting New Jersey, same hospital. I was in New York, but it worked out perfectly for me. I think that was the best place for me to do my clinical. So you do get to say like where you want to be. If you know a hospital affiliated with SGU and you want to go there, you can actually say exactly what hospital you want to go to. But always keeping in mind that they give preference to the people that live in a specific area. So like an American who lives in New Jersey, if they say, I want to be in New Jersey, they're most likely going to get placed there because they want them to be back with their family. Whereas for us who are from far out countries, we kind of get, what else is left, but also they still do take into account like what we want. It's just that the others are gonna get preference over us. They want you to have as broad of an idea of medicine as you can, so you do everything. You do surgery and you do all the surgical subspecialties, you do internal medicine, pediatrics, OB-GYN, psychology, you do everything. I'm sure there's few things we didn't get to do, but for the most part, you will have to see everything because they want to make sure that when you're making that decision to go into a specific field, you have gotten an accurate and fair chance to see what it's like to speak to people that are practicing there and actually make the good decision for yourself. Because they also know that, being a physician, it's a long journey, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of sacrifice. So when you get there, they want you to know for sure, this is what I want to do. A lot of people still make a choice to switch later on, but that comes with additional stress because you do a year of intern year in a specific field. That's a lot of time that you've sacrificed in a field. And that's a lot of money as well going into just, taking care of yourself and money that you're not gaining because you're not a fully practicing independent physician. So they want to make sure that when you go into that field, this is what you want to do. You've had all the experience that you can have to make an informed decision. when you're in residency, you've already pretty much chosen. It's just that now you can specialize even more. So say like, do you know a specific field of medicine you're interested in? Pediatrics. So if you go into pediatrics, while you're a resident, you're also going to do like general pediatrics. You're gonna do pediatrics in the clinic, pediatrics on the floors, so patients that are sleeping in the hospital. You're gonna do pediatrics in the emergency room, in the ICU, in all areas, even the subspecialties, so gastroenterology, cardiology, lung, like all different things. You're gonna have rotations. So at the end of the 3 years, you are trained as a general pediatrician. If you don't want to specialize, you're basically saying, I want to work in a clinic as a pediatrician. But if you wanna specialize, so now say you want to do ICU, emergency medicine, cardiology, and I'm talking pediatrics, then that's when now you're picking another subspecialty and you go on to be a fellow. So although you've picked pediatrics, you still have a lot more things you can choose from. You just need to do more training if you don't want to be a general pediatrician. So that's tough because it's going to be different depending on where you're at in your journey and also how you balance your life. So I think for me initially it was very hard because I knew that my parents are paying a lot of money for me to be in SGU. It's already a rigorous system. So I was already thinking like, I cannot fail. I do not want to fail, you know? I really just want to excel and have to do this one time. So for me initially, I struggled with balancing things because then I felt that all I could do was just study. So I sacrificed like, you know, sports, things that I love because I was only thinking I have to pass. But that affected me in a negative way as well because I am a social person. I do like spending time with my friends. I do love sports. I love arts and doing other creative things. So what happened was my body literally started to break down. If you don't listen to your body will eventually find ways to stop you. And I saw that firsthand. I mean, it was as bad as I was in the hospital because I was so stressed. And my physician literally told me, like, you are stressed, you're not sick. Your body is breaking down because you are stressed. You're breaking your body down. So I had to now start thinking of how am I utilizing my time? And this is where it makes the difference between studying hard and studying smart. So I had to go back to the drawing board, plan out my hours, and then making sure I'm putting in time to, like, you know, spend a little time with my friends, do something for myself, go to the gym. But you always have to keep in mind, like, what is the end goal? Because if you take it too far, also what I saw with other people, especially being on a beautiful island like Grenada, and the campus literally looks like a resort, some people just go there and want to have fun, want to go out all the time. You know, they're like, I'll be good. Or they get in relationships with people who don't need to study as hard. Like, you'll be in class with geniuses, people who literally will see things for the first time and not have to see it again because they remember. And then what happens is now you're not making the grades and you're getting kicked out. So I'm just mentioning that because you always have to know yourself, take care of yourself, but always remember what is my end goal. Because if you start putting in too many socializing things in your day and you're not spending that time putting into your craft, it will affect you in a negative way. But I just basically had to learn how to balance. And that is something that I still will keep trying to do every single day. Even now as a resident physician, I'm always trying to look for ways that I can balance things out. But because I've been doing this for so long, I definitely am better at it. But initially, you might struggle with it. But just make sure you take care of yourself. That's the big thing. Literally, since I was in year 7, I always took my exams seriously. This was like, we gotta hit those A's all the time. And that's not to say anything bad. If you miss the A, you get a B, you get a C, that's understandable. But the main thing for me was every exam, you treat it like this is your life goal. Like, if I don't get that grade, I cannot do what I want with my future. It's always that high standard for yourself. It's not because you're going to beat yourself up if you don't do well, and I get it. I used to beat myself up because, like sometimes you just have high standards for you. But I just want to stress that because failing is a part of life. It teaches you how to be resilient. It teaches you how to pick yourself up. But if your goal all the time is to go above and beyond, you will find that you do better. Even if you tend to fall a little bit under, you don't fall so far because you're constantly pushing yourself. So for me, that was always the thing. Every exam, there was a high standard that I was setting for myself. That was the goal. And I think that's what helped me do well in AS and A2, is just making sure that I was always being consistent. Because if you leave it to the end to now say, let me work hard now, you've missed out on so much. You could have been building so much upon your knowledge and getting better. So don't leave it to the end. Just work as hard as you can. And you have that advantage where you have a little bit longer time to really get comfortable and familiar with the information. So just make sure you're always, always applying yourself. So the West Coast is kind of like, how you go to Mombasa and everything is so easygoing. It's a little similar in that sense where, I was in a big city, was nice. I like that fast-paced lifestyle, but it was also California, so people are more relaxed. I think people are more friendly because maybe they get more sun. They don't really have to deal with the cold as much. But then East Coast, so now we're thinking, I went to Grenada, which was even slower. People are more relaxed. This is an island. And then I went to Brooklyn. So now you're in the hustle bustle of the city. But I loved it because New York is such a melting pot. It's so vibrant. If that's your personality, even though people kind of mind their own business, a little bit stush, that New York hustle, I still loved it. I felt like there was a community for everyone. Where I lived, it was a Caribbean type of area, but it felt so much like home. So getting same type of foods you eat at home, hearing the same music, things like that. Philly is close to New York. It's not exactly New York. Big Black population, which I also like. So I'm taking care of a lot of kids who look like me, which is very important to me. The difference between the two, I think, is more so the personality of the people and the fact that you have 4 seasons in a year. So you will have a good summer, spring, winter, fall, 4 seasons. It's just up to you. What's your flavor? Honestly, it was just like a call for me. Initially when I was saying I thought of OB, I went to my OB-GYN rotation and the residents were very honest about it. They're like, if you do not like OB or if you can do anything else, do that thing, because they know that to be an OB-GYN, it's a lot of hours, a lot of sacrifice, just like anything else in medicine, but that is on its own other level. So already at that point, I'm taking what the residents are saying at face value. And when I was doing my clinicals in OB, I could see what they were saying. And I felt I didn't really love it as much. Any delivery I went to, as soon as that baby would come out, my attention was completely on the kid. I was with the pediatricians, just seeing what they were doing. And even the attendings knew that, you're a pediatrician. They would point it out, you're not an OB-GYN doctor, you seem more interested in peds. And I would always be down in the nursery when I was on call. So on call, you're sometimes in the hospital overnight and things may not be happening. So I would just go to the nursery. So for me, I liked being able to mentor those children, getting to see them go on to be whoever they're going to be in the world, but also just how the parents love and care for their kids. It's makes you want to be an even better pediatrician. But also the thing with me, I like putting puzzles together. So pediatrics is typically like IM, which is internal medicine. It's just you're doing it in children and teenagers. So I like the patient population for pediatrics, and that's why I chose peds. Otherwise, there was a point where I was looking like peds, IM, but like I said, that patient population with children, it's unmatched for me, and I knew that peds was going to be the best place for me to be. Surgery. surgery because I'm not a surgical person. Like I said, I thought I wanted to do plastic surgery initially, and just being in the OR wasn't interesting for me. So yeah, I felt like, and then also the hours, we hear the lifestyle of a surgeon is very tough. It really is. They have very early mornings, very long days, not much time to themselves. They're always on go. That just wasn't for me. And that's going to be another thing for you guys going into medicine. Some specialties sound great, like you want to be a neurosurgeon. And if that's really what's for you, I really pray that it works out for you. But some people, they say they want to do things because of the glitz and glamour that surrounds it. But when you get there, you also have to remember there's so much more to life than medicine. So if this is really what you want to do, absolutely go for it 100%. But if you get there and you're like, I could be happier doing other things, and this is not necessarily what I want to do with my life, then that's when you start thinking about other specialties. What else could make me happy? And it's not necessarily just because you want to say you have that flashy title, but this is what I want to do. Because you're thinking, I'm putting in all this time, all this sacrifice. You want to make sure you're doing something that will make you happy for the rest of your life. I wish I knew to take care of myself more. Like I said, the struggles with balance. I wish I prioritized my mental health a little bit more. I think in some ways it helped that I wasn't too aware of what I was getting into, because had I known that it was that stressful, I may have been too scared to go for it. But I think just being young and being so ambitious and not really knowing exactly what it takes kind of worked in my favor, because yes, my system was shocked, but you just rise to the occasion and you do what you have to do to make this a reality for yourself. Yes, I did. I did do my SATs. So I think I did them in year 12 or year 13. I honestly can't really remember. Definitely before I applied, I had to do them. And SATs are very different because, Americans are trained to take the SATs all throughout high school, whereas for you guys, it's a completely different system. You're now having to learn all these new things, learn how to do MCQs, because although you do MCQs right now, you're not doing them as much as a kid that is in that system. They do MCQs. Doing MCQs is really a game. It's like, how good are you at taking a test? So for me, that was the struggle. You may know the information, but applying those tips and tricks to make you really successful on the SATs is something that I struggled with. So I definitely didn't do as great as I wanted to, but I still ended up at a good school. Oh, it definitely was a huge part of making me the physician that I am today. Because I did do sports and I always had coaches and stuff, I've always known the importance of having mentors and coaches around you, people to be real with you, people to pick you up when you're, failing or when they see you making the wrong choices. That's the importance of mentorship. People who are going to guide you and tell you how it is and show you that, you're not alone. They've walked the same path as you. So for me, I just look to people that I respected, or even people that maybe I just met once, but I saw something in them and we had a good relationship. The most important thing with mentorship is just finding somebody that you connect with, because mentorship is really like a friendship. You have to trust each other, and those are the people who are really going to be influential in your journey. So I would recommend that you have mentors even starting now, and especially because you're thinking of medicine, looking for people who are already med students or physicians. It can be someone who's even just one class above you. Those can all be mentors for you. They're just people to guide you and hold you accountable. Main thing that I'll leave you with is just to work hard, always believe in yourself. You're in a really great school. They really do give you what you need to be successful, but it's gonna be up to you. So there's a lot of you sitting in this room who have potential to do amazing things in life. the reality is that some people just won't get there because they'll let life get to them. Fear, other people's opinions, but I don't want you guys to limit yourself. So you always have to keep pushing yourself, just like I've been saying all through. You have what it takes, but some people, and I'm just being real with you, they have that potential in them, but they will never realize it because they will fall, to the other things and distractions in this world. So constantly push yourself, constantly apply yourself. You can do whatever you want with your life. It just depends on you and your mindset.